Hello, this is David McAdams, author of Game Changer, Game Theory and the Art of Transforming Strategic Situations. Welcome to this video episode of the Game Changer Files, Saving the Wild Rhino. It was quite possibly the greatest conservation success of the 20th century. The southern white rhino, on the verge of extinction in the year 1900, had by 2000 rebounded to a robust population of 20,000 animals. Many factors played a role in that remarkable return, from the creation of protected natural preserves such as Kruger National Park in South Africa in the early 20th century, to the international ban on rhino horn trade in 1972, and finally in the 1990s, the removal of rhino horn from the traditional Chinese medicine pharmacopoeia. Demand was down and things were looking up for wild rhinos, but then something happened that turned everything upside down. The number of rhinos poached in South Africa suddenly skyrocketed from 13 in 2007 to over 300 in 2010 to over 1,000 in 2013. Chasing a seemingly insatiable new demand for rhino horn, as prices rose from around $500 per kilogram in 2007 to as much as $100,000 per kilogram in 2013. It's hard to understand how rhino horn could sell at such stratospheric prices, especially since, chemically speaking, rhino horn is made of the same stuff as fingernails and hair. It all began with a rumor in Vietnam that rhino horn had cured a politician of his cancer. Never mind that no one knows this politician's name, or that in more than 2,000 years of Chinese medicine, rhino horn had never before been prescribed to treat cancer. The rumor took off, and soon, desperate Vietnamese families were paying thousands of dollars in hopes of a similar miracle. Then another rumor swirled, that rhino horn could cure hangovers. As a senior Vietnamese policeman told a news reporter in 2012, "With rhino horn I can drink a lot of alcohol, but I am still sober and strong. I don't have a headache and I do not feel tired. It's not legal to buy this stuff, but in Vietnam you can buy anything with money, or lots of money." Indeed, in part because of its high price, rhino horn has emerged as a key status symbol in Vietnam. Rhino horn wine being referred to as the alcoholic drink of millionaires, and horns themselves routinely gifted among rich Vietnamese and government officials. With no sign of any slowing of Vietnamese demand, the rhino is now once again in genuine crisis. Given the Vietnamese government's apparent unwillingness to take any bold steps itself to address the problem, many conservationists are turning to an idea that would, until recently, have seemed unthinkable: legalizing the sale of rhino horn. The idea behind legalization is that the demand for rhino horn is going to be met one way or the other, and a legal supply could depress the price enough to dissuade some poachers from going after rhinos in the wild. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that legalization isn't going to be enough to save the wild rhino. It's not clear how much it costs to poach a rhino, but given that rhino horn prices have increased 200-fold over the past several years, they would likely need to fall dramatically before poaching becomes unprofitable. And it's hard to see how prices in Vietnam could fall very far, given rhino horn's emergence as a status symbol and the presumably massive untapped market of people in Vietnam who would love to drink like millionaires. Rather than trying to dramatically lower the price of rhino horn, we need to focus on dramatically increasing the cost of poaching. These costs are already considerable, as poachers these days employ helicopters, night vision goggles, and high-powered rifles to strike quickly and evade capture in places like South Africa's Kruger National Park. Once they have a rhino horn in hand, however, it's fairly smooth sailing for poachers to bring it to market, as Vietnam has been lax in its efforts to stop rhino horn from entering the country. Conservationists are doing their best to pressure Vietnam to do more. But even better would be to change the game, to bring Vietnam fully and enthusiastically into the fight against the criminal syndicates behind the wild rhino poaching trade. Here's how that could be done. First, legalize rhino horn, as many are suggesting, but instead of creating a free market, imagine granting a monopoly to the Vietnamese government for the regulated sale of rhino horn. This legal rhino horn supply could come from pre-existing stockpiles or by shaving horn, which regrows every few years from rhinos not living in the wild. Once given ownership of the rhino horn trade within its borders, the Vietnamese government would then have a strong incentive to stop illegal supplies from entering the market, to criminalize the purchase and use of horn gotten from unauthorized sellers, and to take whatever other steps are necessary to close Vietnam to poached rhino horn. Of course, there are downsides to giving the Vietnamese government a monopoly over rhino horn, not least that government officials will then have a vested interest in stoking demand. Bearing this in mind, Vietnam should only be gifted such a lucrative monopoly with some strings attached. For instance, that a certain percentage of the revenue from rhino horn sales be funneled into a public service announcement campaign that conservationists control. I can already imagine a TV spot that might run in such a campaign. It opens to a scene of hip partygoers who, strangely, clip their fingernails, blend those fingernail bits up, and then down the resulting concoction in shot glasses to wild cheers and a sardonic on-screen message: rhino horn is the same as fingernails, and there's nothing cooler than drinking fingernails. If it works, and Vietnamese demand finally cools down, the wild rhino story could once again become one of the greatest, if now also one of the strangest, conservation successes of all time. I'll drink to that. Thanks for this Game Changer file go out to the student team of Brett Farley, Andre Horga, Reza Logday, and Tina Retief, whose final project inspired this video. To learn more, check out the link below to see our videotaped conversation about their project. Also be sure to check out GameChangerFiles.com for updates and other materials, and to open a Game Changer file yourself. Together, we can change our world for the better, one game at a time.